A Center College student takes a wrong turn in the mountains of Kentucky and ends up fighting for her life. That's the plot of the movie Rust Creek, which was produced by Kentucky native Stu Pollard. He joins me now from Louisville. And Stu, I watched the movie this weekend. It is scary. It is smart. It's such a great film. How did you come about the idea for this story and also filming it here in Kentucky?
Well, first off, thanks for watching it, and thanks for such a kind review, and accurate, I firmly believe. The uh, the movie's always been a Kentucky story from the start. It is loosely based, very loosely based on something that happened to me when I was the lead character's age, so quite a while ago. And the reason that it has Kentucky and where Sawyer's headed is a job interview in Washington, D.C. The reason those two cities are intertwined is I went to college in D.C. So when I was her age, I impulsively jumped in my car in the middle of the night and didn't tell anybody where I was going, and was on a road trip back to Kentucky for the holidays and got caught in a snowstorm. And it was the first time I contemplated my own mortality, because I realized I was in the middle of nowhere. This was long before cell phones and GPS, and realized that nobody was expecting me. Nobody knew that I had left, and it was a really stupid decision. And that's essentially what Sawyer does. It's obviously a little bit different conceit, and what happens to her after she gets lost is wildly different. That's what makes it a movie and not my little story. But it plays with that notion of a young person making what seems like a very harmless, impulsive decision, something you do when you're young and dumb.
You first released Rust Creek in theaters and then in December on Netflix, where it has become a big hit and the critics love it as well, in addition to the viewers. What has the response been like for you?
Very extreme lengths. We've been working on the script for the better part of a decade to put the movie, from an idea to a script to putting into production, raising the money, doing all that stuff. It was great to get that critical response. It was certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes and all that. It had a nice long little sort of mini theatrical run for a couple of months. It was on Showtime last year, but it really demonstrates the power and reach of what Netflix is and has, because just so many more people got exposed to it. And we talked to the distributor when it broke and ended up in the top 10. I mean, it was ahead of Queen's Gambit for a couple of days, for crying out loud. And again, it's just getting exposed to a different audience. Obviously, there's zillions of subscribers on Netflix, and there's a little bit of luck mixed in there, obviously, as well. We just feel very blessed that it happened, and there was an awful lot of people from Kentucky who worked on this movie, who helped finance this movie. So certainly, it's very gratifying as the person who helped put this thing together. To know that all of them can share in this, their hard work getting recognized and seen is really the most important thing. We all work on these things in hopes that they will find an audience, and that's what's happened, and that's what's exciting.
You mentioned the Queen's Gambit that takes place in Lexington, but wasn't filmed in Lexington. And, there were a lot of those of us who know Lexington, that was one of the critiques of it, was that, but you chose to make this authentic. It's about Kentucky, and you filmed in Kentucky, and the locations play an integral role in the story.
Yeah, and it obviously, the only real location in the film is Center, and we wanted to shoot at a real college campus in Kentucky. We actually looked at EKU as well. And we actually looked at trying to film in Eastern Kentucky, but the infrastructure just wasn't there. We didn't have enough hotel rooms to put up crew and that kind of thing. So we shot a lot of the driving sequences in Franklin County, had a lot of help from the former sheriff there, Pat Melton. So a lot of the topography you see as she's starting to drive through the woods and mountains is in Franklin and just outside of Franklin. I think we shot a little bit at a town called Peaks Mill, and that's where a lot of that authenticity comes from. And then a lot of the stuff with the trailer and whatnot, where she spends a lot of time in the film and meets most of the characters, other than her, were shot in Mount Washington, and that's another extremely cooperative community.
Great. So what's next for you? Obviously, your industry has been hit incredibly hard by the pandemic.
Well, all industries have been hit hard by this, and ours is no exception. We actually made the decision to, even with all the attention that Rust Creek's getting right now, it's still an independent film that's scraping to to make every last dime it can to cover its production cost and pay the people that financed it back. So it's a very, very difficult business. And so we made the decision early in 2020 to explore other ventures to try to keep our company afloat and be sustainable in years to come, pre-pandemic. And so you'll see us moving into the educational space later this year, hopefully, I guess I should say, or later this month, hopefully, creating some educational content that sort of lean into our strengths as production people, as well as having some film experience. So there'll be some educational videos on filmmaking. We are producing some content in the documentary space on a very, very limited basis. So I'll refrain from what those are about, talk about what those are about right now. But you can always go to our website, lunacyproductions.com, to both look at the projects we've been involved with that are already out and available to watch, as well as seeing some of the things we've got in development from a narrative and documentary side.
And that website is also where we can get the Rust Creek gear, like the hat you're wearing.
Yep, our store is linkable on that site. And also, we'll tell you, I think just about everywhere you can watch the stuff.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, it is Rust Creek streaming now on Netflix. Stu Pollard, thanks so much for your time, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Appreciate the time and the interest, and thanks for giving us a shout out. And thanks again to everybody who worked on the film. I hope you're all enjoying this.